Morning, ladies and gentlemen. Today we're going to cover dividend investing in a larger video because I can use more examples of investments and stocks I recommend to people and that I invest in myself. I can cover more into how to start an investment portfolio and how to find new stocks to invest to right now. Dividend investing is a large part of how I originally learned how to invest. It has a special place in my heart. So let's get into what we're covering. Because they have such a special place in my heart, today we are going to cover all the aspects I can fit into this video. These aspects are what are dividends, how to start in the first place, how to find the stocks that are reliable with dividends, my personal recommendations for the next few months or maybe years, and examples on how to use these stocks to unlock your wealth. So let's get into what is a dividend. Dividends are a percentage of the profit that is allocated to each share of stock. Companies can either choose to release the dividends or keep them to grow the business. This is decided during a shareholders meeting where the board decides if they have enough profit to grow the business and release dividends. If they do, they will release dividends and pay the shareholders for their loyalty and investment to the company. Now that we know what a dividend is, how can we start an investment account? Well, it's quite simple. All you have to do is decide which type of investing account that you would like. The three main accounts are Roth IRAs, traditional IRAs, and brokerage accounts. Roth IRAs and traditional IRAs are retirement accounts. They have limits to how much you can contribute to them each year, but have a great tax benefit to them. Brokerage accounts are mainly considered trading accounts, but they can also be used as investment accounts for larger investments than what you can put into the IRAs. They also don't have penalties from withdrawing before the age of 65, which means that you can use these accounts to make purchases like a house or other things, making it more versatile compared to the retirement accounts. The important thing is to pick which is more important to your goals. Most people, in my opinion, should invest into IRAs because it is best to grow their wealth over time. But they have a side investment account for purchases like a house through the brokerage account. There are many ways to actually start the account, but I would recommend making an account through Charles Schwab or Fidelity Investments. These both offer Roth and traditional IRAs, along with a normal brokerage account. Some banks offer investments through their app like Greenlight or Chase Bank. These are typically brokerage accounts, but not IRAs, but they are simplistic to use and set up. Go through the account setup on either which one you choose, and let's dive into how to find a reliable dividend paying stock. Once you have your account set up, how do you find the right dividend stocks? We're going to use the Yahoo Finance screeners. The settings I would recommend are a forward dividend yield of 3% or more, 5 years of consecutive dividend yield growth, and a profit of 19% or larger. Also, add a filter to have a 52-week percentage change to be over 1%. This dividend yield will make sure you are getting a reliable source of income without the company overextending beyond what they should be giving out for dividends. Along with the 5 years of consecutive dividend yield growth, this will ensure that the company is actually sustainable and your profits from your dividends will grow each year, compounding your investments even further. With this, we want a profit of 19% or more because this will show if a company actually has the resources to distribute the dividends that is given to its shareholders. This is also an indicator that the company has a sustainable income that will survive for some time. Lastly, we put on the 52-week percent change to just remove dying companies or companies that won't grow over the year. Now, this one isn't completely true and doesn't mean that the company won't, but it is just an extra optional layer of protection just in case. So, now that we know how to find them, let's move on to my personal recommendations. Going through this screening process myself and diving deeper into the financials of the companies, I would recommend Abbey V Inc., Philip Morris International, Realty Income Corporation, and Kimberly Clark Corporation. First off, let's start with why I picked Abbey V. This company has a promising dividend yield of 3.14%, has increased the yield each year for at least 10 years. The dividend has had a growth rate of 7% over the last 5 years. And then we have their financials. It has a total revenue over 14 billion with a gross profit of 85%, along with being in a high growth industry of biotech, increasing potential to grow price wise with dividends that are paid each quarter. Last year, it grew 33% in its stock price, and the overall growth per year of the company over the last 10 years have been 25.6%, with a total increase of 256.13% over the last 10 years. Now let's cover Philip Morris International. This company has an even more promising dividend rate of 4.14%, with it growing 2.65% over the last 5 years. The dividend yield has increased over the last 16 years and makes it even more reliable for its payouts. In their financials, they have a revenue of $9 billion with a gross profit of 69.37%. This is going to make it an even more reliable stock and shows that it has a lot of room to grow while handing out its dividends. It is in the industry of tobacco, which is not the best for highest growth, but it definitely has some potential. Last year, it grew 31.39%, and over the last 10 years, it grew at an average of 4.8%, with a total of 48.93% of growth in their stock price. Our next stock is Realty Income Corporation. This is not a usual stock. This stock is a real estate investment trust. This basically means that you invest into real estate through this company, and you get a return from it. Watch my short on real estate investment trusts to learn more. Anyways, this stock gives a huge dividend of 5%, and it has increased its dividend yield since 1994. This gives it so much reliability and gives a lot of credibility for our purposes today. Over the last 5 years, the dividend yield has increased 3%. This is not a bad growth rate, but it will certainly work for a long-term portfolio. Finally, let's get into their financials. First off, they have $1 billion in revenue. They have a gross profit of 40.49%. This is not nearly as much room as the other stocks, but it definitely is enough room for them to continually give dividends through the next few years. As I stated before, this is a real estate investment trust. So, the industry this is in is real estate. This is a very reliable industry for investing because it typically grows in economic downturns and has always have value as long as we are in a capitalistic society. Real estate always has the potential to grow. Last year it grew 10%, which isn't nearly as high as other stocks, but this is a more conservative investment. Over the last 10 years, it grew 4.4% on average a year, with a total change of 44% in stock price. Now, our last stock is Kimberly-Clark Corporation. It has a good dividend yield of 3.3% and has increased their dividends since 1985. This gives it even more reliability than Realty Income Corporation and makes it one of our most reliable dividend providers. The dividend yield over the last 5 years has increased by 3.44%. This rate is good enough for our purposes and will help us make even more each year. Now, in their financials, they have a revenue of $5 billion with a gross profit of 40.62%. This is plenty room for dividends and has still the potential to keep the company growing. Even though it is not as much profit or revenue as the other companies, it is still a solid choice. Next, we have its industry, which is household products and bathroom items such as those paper towel dispensers that are common in schools. Now, this is a good amount of market, especially since it has been the main company that I have seen for any school that I have been into for my whole life, and its revenue reflects that. Last year, it grew 15.6%, and over the last 10 years, it had an average change of positive 4.39%, with a total of 43.29%, which isn't the greatest of all our numbers, but is still a solid choice. Next, let's move on to my example strategies for dividend investing. For our first strategy, I'm going to go over dividend growth investing. This is going to be a simple breakdown because I already have a short that covers this topic. Basically, this type of strategy is filtering through potential stocks, with the filters we used before, and looking through to find stocks that you believe have a higher potential to grow compared to any random dividend stock that you find that seems promising. This strategy is mainly what I use to find those stocks I just recommended. And it's a solid strategy and works for most people. Our next strategy is high yield investing, which I have not covered yet on this channel. This is the first way I started investing in anything. I love the promise of 14 to 16% each year without doing anything. My first experience in this was when I was young and I invested in ARI, or Apollo Real Estate. This strategy is finding the largest dividend payouts that you can find and to get as much payouts from them as possible. This isn't the greatest strategy, and I wouldn't recommend it for the average investor because it is stressful and a lot more work than what we did before in our last strategy. The strategy, you have to maintain knowledge of the company, know when to take out of the company, and take your payouts, and not to stay in for too long. And lastly, let's go over our conclusion. Let's wrap up what we learned today. We now know what a dividend is. We now know how to set up our investment account. We know how to find reliable dividend stocks. My personal recommendation for the next few years and some strategies to use and build your wealth. So, thank you for watching. Make sure to like, subscribe, and share. Have a good rest of your day, and may God bless you, and I hope your fortune finds you.